Hey, this is Lawrence. Been a little while since I did a video, maybe going on a month now. I've been very busy of lately rearranging my vinyl room. I found a really cool shelving unit for vinyl at the Union Mission thrift store, and it needs some tender loving care. And I did some reinforcements at the bottom with 2x4s and cleaned the unit up. It looked great. It put out by the assembly furniture company, IKEA, and it fits vinyl in perfect. I'm able to fit about 160 vinyls in it. So I've been very busy reorganizing the vinyl room and just doing everything. So I'm going to do a video tour of the vinyl room before too long, whenever I get around to it. That might be in the year 2060, the way I go. But today I have some vinyl which I want to incorporate into the collection, into the library. But before I do that, I want to show them off. And I have my vinyl organized in the way I've always wanted organized. I mean, I'm still doing a little fine tuning here and there, but it is the most organized I've ever had it. So I will be doing more feature videos since I know where everything's at, and specialized videos, like male country singers from the classic country era, stuff like that. But let me go ahead and show off this more recent finds that I got from thrift stores. And although thrift stores, they went up on their prices and the selection's not as good as it used to be, if you have an eclectic taste in music, you can still find stuff. I found 3 albums today which are really, really cool. If you're familiar with, if you like classic country music from like the 50s and 60s, you know who the Louvin brothers are. Well, this is Charlie's first solo album after his brother Ira passed away. And the Louvin brothers were a tight harmony brother dual group, and one of them played mandolin, the other one on guitar, and their music is great. They've had a whole host of other players on their albums, but this album here is Charlie's first album after the passing of his brother. It came out in 1964, and All Music gave it a 4-star review. He wasn't as successful on his own as with his brothers, but the All Music said that's a shame because his work needs to be recognized. This album was released in 1964 on Capitol Records. It has the old, Capitol artwork on it, and it's still in shrink wrap. It's like in new condition, like somebody just played it once and put it away and left the shrink wrap on. So the cover and the vinyl is like in new condition. So this is as good as the day you bought it at the record store. And of course the Louvin brothers, here's a copy of one of their albums I have. Very cool. Okay. Usually I divide up the genres of music: jazz, country, pop, but I didn't do it this time, so it's a mixed bag. So we're going to have some country, some jazz, some pop, some country again, some jazz, some pop. This is an album I brought at a church thrift store. It's an early 80s Grover Washington album. I got a number of his albums, and the All Music review said this is not really jazz, more easy listening. They didn't rank it very high, but for $1, still in shrink wrap, new, I went ahead and got it, added to the collection. Very nice cover there. I have a number of her studio albums, but this is a Greatest Hits Volume 1 for Petunia Clark, and you all know her, I know a place downtown, downtown, don't sleep in the subway, darling. So happy to have this as a Greatest Hits collection. Going into what I call the classic vocal era, the Tony Bennett's, the Frank Sinatra's, the Billie Holidays, the Dinah Washington. Keely Smith belongs to that era, and she was one of the greats. She was a partner with her late husband, and she's late too, she passed some years back, Louis Prima, okay? And they were kind of like a musical comedy team. They were sort of like the Sonny and Cher of their time. And they did primarily played, a lot of Vegas shows. And this is years later. This album was cut in the mid-'80s, 85. And she still had her chops, man, her vocals. And it sounded more mature because when she was with Louis, it was more of a comedy setting, So here, where she could really just kind of flow and relax and sound, a bit more womanly. So I'm happy to have this great album, a whole host of great jazz, session musicians at the time. It's on Fantasy Records, and this is in great condition. I don't buy any vinyl unless it's in playable condition. This one, the cover's messed up, but the vinyl's in great condition. You see it's ripped here. This is Pete Townsend, early 80s, Chinese Eyes, okay? Follow up to Empty Glass. And I listened to side one, I liked it. And I also got the follow-up album, came out in 85, called White City. And it's not in here because I misplaced it. It's floating somewhere in the vinyl room. So I'm happy to have this. And of course, The Who just released a fantastic new album. The Who, consisting of Pete and Roger now, and Zach Starr, I think, is on the drums, and other studio musicians. This is really cool. I love compilation albums. I got all the K-Tales and Roccos and other, off-brand compilation albums of hits from the 60s and 70s and some from the 50s and 80s. This one is put out by a radio station in Phoenix, that Kurt the Hit Volume 2 stereo. And you open up the gatefold and it has all the DJs and their names and below what shifts they work. And this is the era of my glasses. I gotta put on my glasses. It's a 2-record set. It's on heavy paper stock. And Dizzy, Tommy Rowe, Venus to Shocking Blue, Going Up the Country, Can't Heat, Letter, The Box Tops, Harper Valley PTA, Polk Sally Annie, Tony Joe White, Smile, A Little Smile for Me, The Flying Machine, Good Morning Sunshine, Oliver, Crystal Blue Persuasion. So all those mid to later 60s hits comprise this compilation. It's on Phoenix Records, 2-record set, and these compilations are nice just to put on, kick back, relax, and listen to some great oldies hits by a variety of artists. Command Records, they have a unique history, and most of you don't know about Command Records. Just do a Google. They pioneered the use of early stereo, and they did something called ping pong stereo, where an instrument will bounce around from one channel to another. And they're very famous for their minimalistic artwork, and they pioneered the gatefold, and the gatefold contained information about the recordings and about the piece themselves. But whoops, here's the cover, the minimalistic artwork. And I have, I just framed up about 6 of them on my wall in the vinyl room. And like I said, I'm going to do a vinyl video. I will say this, you know, it's instrumental music, kind of jazzy, kind of movie themes. If you're not into that music, but if you find a Command record that's in really good playable condition, get it, because they use really good high quality vinyl, good pressing, and Command records are the best sounding records I've ever heard, period. I know that there's Company, High Fidelity, and all that specialize in high quality pressings, but these albums are just amazing. Like I said, if you're not in that kind of music, just if you find a couple that's in playable condition, buy them. You'll just enjoy listening to the process, the separation, and the playing around with the stereo techniques. I wish I was more informed. I have to do a separate video on Command records. Tom and Jerry were 2 guys who did instrumental guitar music of hits, and even hits that were other instrumental guitar music. And this is volume 2. I have volume 1, and they're very similar, except the background on this one is like a sky blue. It's on Mercury Records. And they were very talented, used a lot of echo and reverb and all that. This is very unique here. Something, you know, this is really go extreme on my eclectic side. This album was put out by the Smithsonian Institute, and I like these kind of records. It has a booklet inside, informative booklet of text and pictures. What this is the music of the Thomas Jefferson era, or the Founding Fathers, and played on the original old instruments of that time, and some of them had to be refurbished. So you know, when you listen to this record, you're listening. It was played by instruments that's from the original instrument, not reproductions of that time, and it's like kind of chamber classical music. You know, it's not big concert hall, just in a chamber. You know, and if Jefferson went to a little party that for the upper class, you know, they would have like a string quartet, and so that this album is that feel there. Very, very cool. And this is good if you just want to relax, if you don't want to be hit anything heavy, but you want some background music. That's great. I've had 2 copies of this album, but they always were noisy, clicks and pop. But I found this one. I said, well, maybe this time, the third time around is the charm, and it was. This is very clean. Cat Stevens' classic album, Tea for the Tillerman. This is very cool. This is the Miracles live on stage in the early 1960. I think this is 1962. It doesn't, you know, Smokey Robertson's in the picture there. It doesn't have his name on it, and it's on the Motown label Tamia, and it's very lively album. The audience noise is applauding and making sound is actually part of the music, so it has that very lively atmosphere. This is talking about the Who. This is Hoodlums, a 2-album disc of the best of compilations. Okay, I think this came out in the late 70s. Jazz vocals, Ella at Duke's Place. An album they did together. It's on the Verb label. Gatefold, good text. She was really had a great voice, and her voice is great on this record. And, heck, Ella and Duke, you can't go wrong. Okay, so happy to have that. Continuing on with the a jazz vocal, this singer is known as the Velvet Fog. Of course, Mel Torme. This album is put out in 1983, but I don't know if these were recent recordings or a compilation put together. A great picture of the skyline landscape of New York City. In the middle is the old Pan Am building. Of course, they're out of business now. And great shot. It looks like the photographer kind of got on his back for that shot. And anyone from New York City who knows where this was taken at, please let me know, okay? In the mid-'80s, there was a song that was kind of a minor hit. I thought it should have been better on the chart. It's called The Captain of Her Heart by a band called Double, okay? And I ran into this album recently at a estate sale for 50 cents, so I got it. It really has a bad warp in it, but my needle's able to ride it out pretty good. Great album, really good album of kind of jazzy pop, sort of like the type of music Sting put out after his departure from the Police, or the breakup of that band. So if you're familiar with The Captain of Her Heart, you kind of get the idea of what the rest of the album's like. Joe Campbell, Carnival. Not familiar with this guy, but I've seen the album before, and my friend who I go thrift store shopping with for vinyl told me to get it, so I got it. So I'm looking forward to hearing this. This is cool because this was in shrink wrap, okay? This is Prince Around the World in a Day, and this was the Prince and the Revolution's follow-up to Purple Rain, and had the hit Raspberry Beret. But there's a lot of cool experimental stuff on this album, which I like. And this was in shrink wrap. It was not in re-wrap, but we opened it anyway, and my friend determined that it wasn't a re-wrap. It's pressed down pretty good, so it's been wrapped up for a long time. So I've got some Prince albums. I'm happy to have this album in my collection. Another cool find. This is the stereo version of the Stones' first compilation. I've got the mono version. This is a later pressing, but it's in beautiful condition. It has the, of course, the paste-on booklet inside. And the vinyl is like new. I got this for $1 at the thrift store. A lot of thrift stores are, when some of them will look through the albums, but when they come across stuff like this, will mark it up or even put it behind the glass, One of the thrift stores I go to, they would probably mark this for like $12 or even up to $16.99. But this is the stereo version of the Stones' first compilation album, and it sounds great. So I'm happy to have it. I have the mono version too. One more jazz. The first album I ever got by Bob James and Earl the last name Klug. I think that's how it's spelled. So that's cool. Good album. I listened to it. Everest Records, which was a label I don't think no longer exists. they had a division called Archives of Folk and Jazz Music, and they put out pretty much generic covers of artists in those genres. And this is Flattened Scrubs. You know, I have some really good Columbia Records Flattened Scrubs album. I saw this, and it contains songs that what I would call deeper tracks, not the, you know, Foggy Mountain Breakdown and the Ballad of Jed Clampett, but more deeper songs that's not found on their compilation, and it's Dolby System. Okay, so I got this. This is a band that a lot of kids were into when I was growing up, but I was more of a Zeppelin / Bad Company / Bachner Turner Overdrive person, but Deep Purple in rock, and I've got Burning. But I just never really got into that. I like what I heard from them, but for some reason I never picked up on their album. So I got this one, and this is a great album. Okay, so happy to have it, and jumped on the train late. We're coming toward the end now. I've always wanted a clean copy of this. Every copy I saw at thrift stores were in bad condition. But the Jesus Christ Superstar album, and the album's in great condition, and it still has the booklet. I have earlier issues of this album here, Donovan's, his first greatest hits, and back when Epic was on the, you know, yellow label, but this is a later day reissue on Epic when they went to this label here, that what I call the Michael Jackson Thriller era label. Okay, and it's much cleaner. It's like new than my other copy. So I went ahead and got this for the better sound quality. But when this was reissued, they cut corners. It's no longer a gatefold with a little booklet inside. So I got this primarily because it was a nice clean copy of the vinyl. It was only $1. Last album, another jazz at the Preservation Hall, the George Lewis Band of New Orleans here. And I don't know much about George Lewis. I looked him up, and he is on the map there. And what's so cool is on the back, all the players, his band, they've all signed their names here, and I think it's genuine, it's real, because it looks like that period ballpoint pen, you know, before Sharpies, and they're not really famous players, so I don't think anybody would be copying the more obscure players, you know, faking their names. So anyway, happy to have this. This sounds great. So those are my vinyls I'm about ready to library, and I wanted to share them with you. So if you like this video, please leave a comment. Thumbs ups are nice, but comments are wonderful. So these are going to the library. I'm about to do another video, response to Melinda's video. I think I got her name right. Sorry. She did a video on Half Speed Masters. I'm going to do a response video to that. So thank you so much for watching, and look for that other video. Have a great day. Bye.